Welcome to Eating Plebeian. Today we are making sausage and potato soup. As the fall weather comes in, you're likely to see more and more soups coming from me because, well, that's just what we do around here. But anyhow, we're going to head on over and take a look at the ingredient list. Starting things off, I've got 2 to 2.5 pounds of russet potatoes. These have been chopped up and sitting in water so they don't turn funny colors until I have the chance to use them. Feel free to use the yellow potatoes or Yukon Gold potatoes. Those are perfectly acceptable. I have 4 to 6 cups of chicken stock. That's going to depend on what my level is within my Dutch oven that I have sitting out. We'll be preparing the soup in that. And since we're talking about hardware, I'll also say that I've got a heavy skillet over here, and we'll be using that to saute up some meat. I've got 1 bay leaf, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 2 teaspoons of sage. Sage will be very important in this. 3 to 5 cloves of garlic. Those are minced up and ready to go. I also have 2 to 3 scallions that I've chopped up. I've divided those scallions in between the whites and the darker greens, and we'll be separating those off simply because one's going to go into the soup for flavoring and the other one is going to be a little bit more for the purposes of garnish, just making things look good. Salt and pepper as usual. I've also got some higher heat cooking oil over there. We're going to need that for the initial saute. 12 ounces of beef sausage. You could also use Italian. That would be actually more traditional, as a matter of fact, but you use what you have, and that's what Eating Plebeian is. And finally, I have a mirepoix. I've got a small onion, 3 sticks of celery, and 2 carrots that have been all chopped up and waiting to go. We're going to get things moving here with this mirepoix, so let's go over to the stove. I forgot to mention that I've got a few things in the fridge, and so therefore I've got to pull those out. I've also got 2 cups of sharp cheddar cheese that I've shredded up, and 1 cup of half and half. This is important to get the creaminess out of the soup that we're actually searching for this time around, so excuse my continuity issues. I've had this Dutch oven heating up now on medium heat for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of that cooking oil here to that pot, and in is going to go in our mirepoix ingredients. That is, of course, the onion, the carrots, and the celery. So those are going to go on, and I'm going to stir these around, make sure that they all get heated up and coated with that oil. So this is the basis to a whole lot of French food, and there's mirepoix, and there's sofritos, and other vegetable mixes that are very popular in different cultures. Probably the one that you may know the best is from Cajun and Creole cooking. That's called the Trinity. That's where the carrots are actually replaced by green peppers. But anyhow, so we're going to give this a total of 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to be tossing in some garlic. I like to give these a head start because garlic has a tendency to burn if you overdo it. And of course, once you burn garlic, the dish is gone. So we're just being careful with our ingredient order as we put them in. We'll join back with you in just a minute. It's been about 2 to 3 minutes now, and we're starting to get a little headway into the transparency on the onions. That's the best way to tell exactly how far all this is going. And so I'm going to add in that garlic, like I mentioned. This is 3 to 5, depending on how big they are and how much you like garlic. I mean, I can promise you this, if I wasn't making this for you, I'd probably go even heavier. We have a thing for garlic and butter in this house. So those are in, and I'm going to take this opportunity to add the light and white portions of our scallions also into the mirepoix in this Dutch oven. They're a little bit more fragile, so they don't need to go as long as, say, the carrots, because those need to soften a bit. They are the most woody, so therefore they need a little bit more time to break down. But I'm going to be rather attentive to this sofrito for the next minute or two. And I'm also going to start the heat on our large skillet. This is our heavy skillet. Now, most of the sausage, not all, but most of the sausage that isn't like, say, raw Italian sausage or bulk sausage in the United States comes pre-cooked or at least pre-prepared and smoked or cured or something like that. So we don't really need to cook it. We do want to sear it off, and we want to render out any egregious fat that might be in it, because I don't want to add that to the soup. So I'm doing that separately over here. We'll drain it off if I need to, and put it in a bowl to await it being added into our sausage and potato soup. So this is nearly complete just as it sits. I am going to go ahead and drain off these potatoes so I can get them ready to get put in. So I'm over here by the sink. You'll excuse the faux pas of me being off camera for just a minute doing something. But those are ready. So I'm going to add in my sage, my oregano, and my bay leaf. So we're rapidly going through the ingredients here. I'm going to add the potatoes. And now we're going to add in the chicken broth. We just want it to cover. And depending on the, exactly how much vegetables you have in your dish. This one was partly open, by the way. You can usually count on these as being 4 cups per container. Excuse me, Texas allergies. So this is still going to be about 4 cups, more or less, once I get this opened and put in, and let that simmer for a bit. We're going to have to let this simmer for about 20 minutes, I guess. Yeah. Now, you can always add to that if you want to make it simmer longer. Perfectly acceptable. If you need to adjust the level of the broth on the inside, feel free to go ahead. Most of the recipes that I do always have some latitude or the ability to swap in and out different ingredients. Using what you have, using what you like in place of maybe something else. These are all things that being a good cook is actually something that, it's kind of instrumental, really. So we've got that in. So we're just up to the top, maybe not quite covering, but close enough. The steam will do it. My skillet here is getting there. So I'm just going to toss these in. I'm going to rearrange them a bit. As I said, just to put a little bit of a sear on them. We don't really need to cook them. But we want to render out some of the extra fat that might be there. And also the searing does give them a nice extra flavor that they certainly didn't possess when they just came right out of the package. So give me about 2 to 3 minutes and we'll see where we stand. Well, about 5 minutes later, it looks like I've done all the sauteing that I need to do here with this sausage. It's rendered out quite a lot of that oil, so I was successful in that. So I'm going to scoop this out and put it back into a bowl and let it sit and drain for just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to turn off this burner. I apologize again if this is something that is a little bit outside of the camera view, but I'm just putting this in a bowl and separating off the extra oil. So this is going to wait until after we get the potatoes cooked on inside of the Dutch oven. And that is because one of the things I like to do in order to create a little bit of thickness here is to use a potato masher and mash up a few of these things just to kind of give the starch the opportunity to thicken up things on its own before we add the cheese and the half and half. But I don't want the sausage to get all mixed up in that process, and now then we would have mashed up sausage. And, you know, unless it was bulk sausage, that's just not something we want. So I'm going to set this back into the sink. I'll be soaking that one shortly. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this Dutch oven over onto a smaller burner where I can control the simmer a little bit more. We want to simmer this and cook it through gently. I don't want it to, you know, be sitting underneath a rocket. So here's this. I've got this set to just above dead low. That will be enough heat, at least on my oven, at least on my stove and oven. But we're going to let this go for about 20-25 minutes. This will sit here where it's kept kind of warm by everything that's going on, and we'll check on it at that point. All right, see you later. So 25 minutes later, we're here we're going to check on how this soup is looking so far. And I still may have to add in a little bit of chicken broth, but I'm going to wait until after I get everything else in here to make that determination. But the potatoes, they're all cooked up. The carrots are similar. And so we are ready to proceed here. So one of the things I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to add in a teaspoon of salt. That goes in about a half teaspoon of black pepper. That's going to be important. Give this a stir up. We want everything all nice and put together here before we do the finish on this soup. And I can also pull out the bay leaf at this point. So I'll just set that over to the side. You can tell it's quite herby. And now I want to check on the salt level, see what that tastes like. That is spot on. Yeah, don't need any more, wouldn't have put in any less. So I'm also now going to go ahead and grab a potato masher. Yes, I have several. And I'm just going to give this a quick couple of hits. I'm not going to reduce this down to porridge. I used to make it like that, still do actually. But I want to give the starch in the potatoes a little bit of opportunity to do what they're going to do. And I'm going to add in the sausage that we sauteed up. So I'm going to set that over in the sink. So that's going to wait for us. So the sausage is now in there. You can see what the liquid level has done now that we've crushed a couple of items. And I think that is looking spectacular, frankly. And now I've got the ready-made moment for success or failure. I'm going to add in the 1 cup of the half and half, and I'm going to add in the roughly 2 cups of sharp cheddar cheese. Don't use the stuff in the pouch. It has anti-caking agents in it to keep the cheese from sticking to itself. But what it also ends up doing is that it keeps it from melting appropriately well. So we're just going to stir this in and around. And that is looking right proper. So I want to give this time to actually come back just to a simmer. That will help things out a little bit. And then we'll get on toward plating. So about 5 minutes, I would guess. Be right back. 5 minutes later, and it's thickened up quite a bit. This is absolutely perfect. We didn't have to use any roux or other types of thickener in order to get it into still being soup territory without delving into stew, I guess, although you could call it that. But this is exactly what we were looking for. So let's go ahead and we're going to dish this up. Now that I have it on the counter, I'm just going to go ahead and, well, I mean, it's hard to embellish too far on how to actually dish up soup. You put it in the bowl, but we're dropping it in and making sure that we get some of the sausage in there, stir it around a little bit, and that looks fantastic. So I'm going to add a little bit of pat of butter here. Tends to be the style of the house. Someone's been scraping off the top. Oh, I know who's been doing that. And adding some of the darker green scallions. Remember, we reserved these and put the whites of those things in the soup earlier on today. And now we have our sausage and potato soup. So I really hope this is a recipe that'll help you out. It's a great weeknight dish. It's one of the reasons why this is something I would recommend to you after the initial, chopping and sautéing a little bit of the sausage. It's pretty much a dump and go operation, and you can just let it sit and stew for a while. Absolutely perfect. And I've got some sourdough bread that's in the oven, and I'll be pulling that out to serve along with this. And I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is a fantastic autumn soup. So thanks for joining us once again here at Eating Plebeian. We're sitting down and we're going to be eating our sausage and potato soup here very shortly. And do me a favor, please hit the like and the subscribe buttons. It helps me out quite a bit. I know you hear a lot of people say that, but it is the truth. Until then, have a good evening, and I'll probably see you tomorrow. Do this one.